This is from New Delhi in 2019. A woman offering her prayers during the annual Chhath Puja celebrations amidst something that closely resembles snow or some fairy tale clouds. Similar photographs emerged during that same time and shocked almost everyone. This is quite uncommon for people residing outside Delhi, yet for Delhiites, this is an annual sight. But wait, it neither snows in New Delhi nor is there scope for these fairy tale clouds. So, what is it all about? These images show how New Delhi, the capital of India, has expanded in the past few years. It is also clearly visible how the city has seen massive urban growth during that same time. The region is now facing unprecedented high levels of pollution every single year.
As Delhiites are battling the deteriorating air quality, capital River Yamuna too is not faring well.
यमुना नदी की सतह पर सफेद झाग की एक लेयर बन चुकी है। ये
यमुना, जिसे आप और हम नदी समझते हैं, वो नदी नहीं, एक नाला है।
मेरे पीछे जो आप सफेद चादर देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये बर्फ नहीं है, ये है पोल्यूशन।
दरअसल यमुना में प्रदूषित पानी छोड़ने का सिलसिला लगातार जारी है और इसकी वजह से इस तरह के हालात बन गए।
A few days back, during the Chhath Puja festivities, devotees were forced to perform puja in knee-deep Yamuna froth.
शहर का कचरा ढोते-ढोते यमुना बेमौत मर चुकी है।
यमुना के पानी में ये केमिकल, ये प्रदूषण है जिस वजह से ये हाल हुआ है।
क्या वाकई यमुना को जिंदा करना मुमकिन है?
The city often makes headlines as the gas chamber of India due to a poisonous smog that engulfs it almost every single year. Delhi often enters a state of climate emergency due to dangerous levels of air pollution. Delhi's air had turned so toxic that breathing it for a day was equal to smoking at least 25 cigarettes. And there's also a major consequential problem at hand. Delhi is running out of its water reserves and its water lifeline, the Yamuna River or Jamna, is shrinking beyond anyone's imagination. Prior to the COVID-19 lockdown, Yamuna's stretch through Delhi had become so polluted that out of the 5 different classes of Indian rivers, it was placed in the most contaminated class E. This meant that the waters from the river's course in Delhi could only be used for industrial cooling and some specified recreational activities, while being completely unfit for domestic supply, underwater life, and of course, agriculture. These photographs are loud enough to tell us how fragile the river has become. The frothy black water of the river is the proof of the presence of industrial effluents, pesticides, and chemicals, along with untreated and domestic sewage. As with any other river, no river is inherently polluted. In fact, River Yamuna is one of the most beautiful rivers in its initial stretch after origination. The river originates in the lower Himalayas at an elevation of approximately 6,300 meters from the Yamunotri glacier in the state of Uttarakhand. It flows through major cities like the city of New Delhi, Mathura, Agra, and finally merges with River Ganga at Allahabad or Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh, covering a distance of over 1,300 kilometers. The river experiences its worst contamination when it enters and runs through New Delhi. Runoff from numerous industrial estates, from many agricultural fields and barns, and the domestic sewage from homes flows directly into nalas or drains, which further empty into the river. Most of it is lethal, untreated, something that you would wish to stay away from. Due to all these sources of sewage in and around the city, Delhi tops the list of sewage generating cities in India according to a 2017 data. The 22 kilometers stretch between Wazirabad Barrage and Okhla Barrage is a part of Yamuna's Delhi segment. While these 22 kilometers represent just a micro 2% of the entire river's length, it accounts for over 76% of the entire river's pollution, thus choking the river as it runs through the city of New Delhi. The Yamuna receives partially treated or completely untreated sewage from as many as 20 different sewage drains scattered all over the city. Out of those, the Najafgarh drain situated in downstream Wazirabad amounts for the highest pollution load discharge in the Yamuna River. Thousands of medium and small enterprises as well as a few major industries are situated along the Yamuna River and around drains like the Najafgarh drain in the form of clustered units. There are as many as 28 industrial units in Delhi alone. These include a wide spectrum of industries like pulp and paper, sugar, distilleries, leather, chemicals, many of which discharge highly lethal industrial effluents such as heavy metals, carcinogens, polychlorinated biphenyls, and others into the drains which further empty into the river. Mind you, this list is still incomplete. Runoff from nearby farms is released into one of these drains. This discharged surface water is polluted with excessive fertilizers and chemicals. Apart from all these, domestic sewage in the form of detergents, plastic bags, paper bags, food, as well as animal and human waste also finds its way into the river. Most shockingly, even animal and human bodies are sighted in the river quite frequently. Yes, you now know the reason behind this froth on the river. Undoubtedly, it is a toxic mixture of pollutants and wastewater. The effects of such contaminated water on the human body is long-lasting, including brain damage, respiratory and heart problems, damage to kidneys, liver and skin, or in the worst cases, even death. There are a number of reasons behind the concentration of pollutants in this 22 kilometers stretch between Wazirabad Barrage and Okhla Barrage. One of the major ones is the river's reduced ability to dilute pollutants. Many might think, why isn't the river diluting these pollutants naturally so that the pollution remains under control? In fact, rivers can only dilute pollutants and tone down the intensity of pollution only when there is abundant water available in the first place. Following its origination, as the river approaches the Hathinikund Barrage in the state of Haryana, its channel is diverted into two major canals, the Western Yamuna Canal and the Eastern Yamuna Canal, while also creating a small reservoir near the barrage. Especially in the summer and lean winter months, extremely less or almost no water is allowed to flow downstream the Hathinikund Dam, with a view to cater the power generation and water demand of the neighboring districts. This means that the river has comparatively less water available downstream from the Hathinikund till Wazirabad Barrage in Delhi, which is a 224 kilometers stretch. Subsequently, most of this stretch either remains dry or has very little fresh water. Even these low waters experience some amount of pollution from neighboring districts. As it reaches Delhi, water is once again trapped at the Wazirabad Barrage near the city's entrance. As a result of this interference again, lesser water flows towards the Okhla Barrage. Now with the problem of limiting such water flow again and again is that with the absence of sufficient water in the Delhi segment, pollutants don't dissolve quite easily. Usually with the presence of sufficient water, contaminants can dissolve quite easily, allowing pollution to remain under control. But as more and more toxic wastewater is dumped in the river's course in Delhi, which already has less water, dilution becomes a bit difficult. One of the clear signs of severe pollution of any water body are the low values of dissolved oxygen or DO. DO is the amount of oxygen available to aquatic species, and values less than 5 mg per liter suggest that a river is polluted. This graph tells us the intensity of pollution of Yamuna's Delhi segment. If we closely observe this, we find that as the river reached Wazirabad Barrage, DO levels plunged and remained zero at multiple locations. This data clearly reaffirmed the fact that the river was ecologically dead. BOD or biological oxygen demand is another parameter to gauge the level of pollution. With a maximum permissible value marked at 3 mg per liter, BOD in Delhi was way beyond the safe limits. Again, if we observe the trend, after leaving Wazirabad, BOD skyrockets and remains beyond safe limits at multiple locations from Paltunpul to Okhla Barrage and Agra Canal near Jaipur. After looking at how threatening the situation is in Yamuna's Delhi segment, a question that eventually appears in all our minds is, if these waters are polluted, why aren't we treating them? Or in fact, toning down the intensity of pollution? Actually, we can and cannot at the very same time. We can, because wastewater can be treated at one or many of these sophisticated systems called as the sewage treatment plants or STPs. Out of the 41 STPs that are present in the city of Delhi, 33 STPs are operational while 8 others stand non-operational. While the capacity of these 33 plants stands at around 2,800 million litres per day, these are quite underutilized and only just 2,200 MLDs of sewage is treated at these plants. On the other hand, the capacity of the 8 other plants stands at around 350 MLD, yet unfortunately they are currently not in function. If we have these projects, these laws, technology and sharp policymakers to keep the river clean, where are we lacking? We know the ins and outs of water conservation, we know that our rivers are getting polluted, yet why is there a continued lack of interest in cleaning the river? The absence of a political will could be a possibility. Yes, there were announcements of cleaning the river yesterday and there will be announcements tomorrow. But a mere factor of a political will is something that makes a difference. This does not mean the cabinets and lawmakers are solely responsible. Equal onus lies on citizens and industries polluting the river directly or indirectly. These citizens and industrialists also need to join their effort in rejuvenating the Yamuna in the Delhi segment. Delhi CM Arvind Kejriwal is confident enough of cleaning the river in his present tenure as the Delhi CM. He is confident enough of cleaning the river after which he himself would take a dip in its waters. At the very same time, citizens need to keep reminding incumbent governments about their promises, especially related to environmental concerns. If this public juggernaut does not push enough today, those promises would find themselves in the rubble of past manifestos and under the weight of new ones. As a result, future election promises might find a renewed interest on these environmental issues. While all these things are true, there seems to be a silver lining when it comes to government action. River Yamuna is at its cleanest in many years. What we all have to look out for is for how long will frothy black waters make a comeback given that industries are now functioning under unlock guidelines?